known as a true outlaw and one of the original first-generation members of the Aryan Brotherhood, Robert Blinky Griffin, was given the name Blinky because some would say all he had to do was blink his eyes and a murder order was given out. Originally from Anaheim, California, he grew up in the streets, was popping pills by the age of 12 and shooting dope by the age of 14. By the 1970s, he was a well-rounded and well-groomed inmate within the California Department of Corrections and would rise through the ranks and become one of the most influential members that the Aryan Brotherhood has ever seen.
This is the oath. If I go forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If they kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me. That represents a mentality behind bars. It represents, Rita Braver reports, a mentality also loose on the streets.
These are members of prison gangs, men so violent that the maximum security unit at San Quentin prison is divided into sections for different gangs to keep them from attacking each other and from preying on non-members. State and federal officials say that these gangs are a new and terrifying type of organized crime, with chapters in prisons ranging over 20 states, gang leaders inside prisons who control vast networks of crime on the streets.
These prison gangs are both inside and outside, and the organization is, I would say, somewhat like a military organization. The direction may well be coming from inside a prison.
Prison gangs now control so much street crime here in California that the federal government has entered the scene. U.S. attorneys are now prosecuting prison gang leaders under the same racketeering statutes they used to go after the mafia. And like the mafia, prison gangs are organized along ethnic lines, with names like the Black Guerrilla Family, the Aryan Brotherhood, the Mexican Mafia, La Nuestra Familia. Members join in prison and when released go to work in the gang's street operations. Laws allowing visitors and mail make it easy for members in jail to pass orders along to the outside.
We can trace crimes that occur here in Los Angeles that had their origin, their plan, scheme, and design in Marion, Illinois, or Atlanta, or some other state other than California.
Detective Jim Vuchas runs the Los Angeles Police Department's prison gang unit.
Bank robbery, narcotics is a major source of the funding. Burglaries, extortion, prostitution, loan sharking. They won't hesitate to kill. Fear, intimidation, killing, that's their main weapon.
Arthur Beltran used to run street crime for La Nuestra Familia. Because he's a federal witness against his old gang, we're not allowed to show his face on television. He described how the gang recruited street prostitutes.
They would go to the prostitute and they would tell the prostitute, listen, we're going to provide you protection from anyone. If they didn't cooperate then the second step would be to go in there and break their arms or their legs, put them in the hospital. And the final step was they would kill her. They make an example of one and the rest would fold over.
The Justice Department has now started a new prison gang task force to monitor the gangs and try to control them.
What we would try to do is to place those gang members in places where we can minimize their recruiting efforts. We would try not to, for example, put all of them in the same prison.
But breaking the gangs is almost impossible. Members take an oath to stay in for life.
An automatic death sentence on any gang member that turns traitor, coward, or deserter.
And money is another lure. Experts say the prison gangs are now about as rich, powerful, and well-organized as the mafia was 30 years ago. Most of the profits from gang crime go back into operations, for legal fees, or to jailed members' families. A few members have made enough money to go from the slums of Los Angeles to the mansions of Beverly Hills. That is the dream for new recruits. But for these young criminals from the ghettos and barrios, just belonging to a crime organization, just appearing strong and mean, may be enough.
Whether it's down the street or in the yard, they've got their shoulders thrown back, their head up, and they're walking tall. They have a lot of pride. There's a lot of machismo to it.
We may control it, say law enforcement officials, but we'll never stop it. Rita Braver, CBS News, San Quentin Prison.
News that the nation's prisons are overcrowded. In California, for example, the correction system currently operates at an estimated 140% of its designed capacity. A judge earlier this week issued a final order calling for reforms at one prison in that state. But Gary Shepard reports the solution remains at large.
It is a nationwide problem, but one of the most glaring examples exists here at San Quentin, a few miles from downtown San Francisco. More than 3,500 inmates, many of them considered among the most dangerous in the nation, crammed into century-old facilities designed to accommodate only 2,700. The prison system's answer has been to put 2 inmates into a tiny cell, 4.5 feet wide, 11 feet long, designed to barely accommodate a single prisoner.
It's like, you know, caged up, man. It's like being a little animal or something, you know. Kind of makes you angry at everybody out there, you know.
After a 2-year battle, inmates have won a major court victory. A California judge has declared double celling inhumane, tantamount to physical and emotional torture. The inmates themselves call it living hell.
People do get hurt here. You know, like I was assaulted about a year ago here with a pipe in my head. With no reason at all. I mean, the guy just went nutty.
Just constant, you know, just being locked up in there together. Like, it hit you all of a sudden, and you just go violent. You know?
Prison authorities plan to appeal the court ruling, which demands an end to double celling, calls the electrical system a nightmare, says there is inadequate heat, light, and ventilation, no hot water at all, and deplorable sanitary conditions.
You get up like at 10 o'clock or so, turn on the light, and you can just see them running everywhere across the pad.
Cockroaches.
Cockroaches.
Oh, yeah.
State officials say they have no immediate solution to the overcrowding problem either here or at other California state prisons, which are also bursting at the seams. Meanwhile, new inmates continue to enter the prison system at the rate of 100 a week. Gary Shepard, CBS News.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Green Lit Gang TV. Hope y'all having a blessed day. Really quick, before I jump into the video, if you would, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It goes a long way for my channel. We are closing in on 25,000 subscribers, and that is because of each and every one of you, so thank you for the continued support. All right, so today we're going to be talking about Robert Blinky Griffin, one of the OGs. You call him basically like a first-generation Aryan Brotherhood gang member, rose to the leadership. He was on the original council. I think it was like a 12-man council. Then it was said that he was part of the original 3-man commission. And this guy he was it, man. This guy is a legend. And he's a legend amongst other Aryan Brotherhood legends. That's the kind of respect this guy carries. But I also am going to be talking about his relationship, interestingly enough, with his wife, Pamela, who at one point was his sister-in-law. That's right. He married the wife of his brother, and it happened through letters. She was responsible, while she's married to Robert Blinky Griffin's brother, basically she was responsible for corresponding him, updating him on what's going on in the family. He was down for a long time, and they ended up falling in love, and it kind of becomes a secret for her and something that's looked down upon, but they were not able to stay apart. We're going to first start with an article from the LA Times about kind of this love story, and it's kind of like an op-ed that I feel like she helped write, and some of it's obviously from the reporter who filled some of this in, but I'm just going to start reading, and I hope you guys enjoy it. This was where the secret half of her life would begin. Friends are gathered in the presence of witnesses for the purpose of uniting in marriage Robert Lee Griffin and Pamela. This began with the prison counselor named Denny Whip, from Tower 10, a guard looked on with a high-caliber rifle capable of a shot. Remind you both to remember that love, loyalty, and understanding are the foundations of a happy and enduring home. So picture Robert Blinky Griffin marrying Pamela, who was, however short time ago, married to her, or his then brother. Not then brother, it's always going to be his brother, but it's just crazy because it's like this was his sister-in-law. They're writing about just family business, keeping him up to date. Hopefully he's not too lonely, and he's able to pull her in. And that kind of gives you an idea of the amount of charisma and the knowledge and just kind of the personality this guy had, that he's basically able to take his brother's wife while he's doing a serious amount of time, marry her. You see how he's able to basically also be a leader of this very violent and infamous prison gang. No other human ties are more tender, and no other vows more important than those that you now, this summer day in July 1984. Pam could not imagine what those vows would endure. She would become a partner at a respected law firm in the Midwest, then Senior Regulatory Counsel for First Data, the largest processor of financial transactions. He would be identified as a leader of one of the most violent prison gangs, the Aryan Brotherhood. Prosecutors would say he earned the name because he could order a death with the blink of an eye. She would buy a home on a street shaded by ash trees in a suburb of Omaha. He would spend 12 years in a windowless 8 by 12-foot cell in the harshest prison, Pelican Bay. She would take yoga classes, attend the opera, and travel with friends to the Galapagos, Palau, Peru, and Alaska. He would be transported to a Los Angeles courtroom with a steel box over his handcuffs and a hood over his head to be tried in one of the largest death penalty cases in U.S. history. In a physical exile, they would share the closest of bonds. And that was that famous RICO indictment in 2002. Yes, Blinky was a part of that. Their correspondence would fill boxes, and they would chat on a prison phone through bulletproof glass for hours at a time. She would not only stand by Robert, she would embark on a 2-decade legal quest to get him out. You both keep these vows. Your home will be happy and full of Whip said that day in the prison yard. Robert put a gold band on her finger. A friend in the prison craft shop had made it, inscribing runic symbols for and Dragon Man and Dragon Bait. This ring, Ivy Robert said, there was a kiss but no dancing or cake. For her wedding night, she drove back down US 50 to her apartment, made dinner, and went to bed alone. A.M. came from a tight-knit Methodist family in Shawnee County. Her father, Skip, was a heavy equipment operator with a... I came from a tight-knit Methodist family in Shawnee, Kansas. This is Pamela's story. Her father, Skip, was a heavy equipment operator with a quirky independent streak Pam admired. I'm sorry, guys, for that little mix-up. So Pam came from a tight-knit Methodist family in Shawnee, Kansas. Her father, Skip, was a heavy equipment operator with a quirky independent streak that Pam admired. As a child, she got good grades and blended in. She loved to play the piano and read, but her inward, watchful way guarded an adventurous soul. When Pam followed a boyfriend to Kansas State in 1968, she sparked at the flux of ideas and unconventional personalities. She was drawn to people who were different. She loved to debate a wannabe Black Panther in her dorm just to hear his ideas. But her interest in classes was haphazard, and she dropped out after her second year. She took a job at a bar and wondered where circumstances would take her. One night at the bar, she met Gary Griffin, that's Robert's brother, a soldier from nearby Fort Riley, just back from Vietnam. She wore no shoes on her first date. They beat him at a game of pool. He was irked, but asked her out again. Soon, he asked if she wanted to move to California. She said sure. They moved into a duplex in Laguna Beach, and Pam took a job cleaning rooms at the Saddleback Inn. Family lived in a ranch home in Anaheim. That's the Blinky's family home, okay? Just so we're clear on that, all right? That's the Griffin family home, lived in Anaheim. That's why I said Robert Blinky Griffin's from Anaheim. A buoyant presence was warmly welcomed into his. His father, Tug, was a railroad engineer, that's Blinky's dad, and union leader from East Texas. He was clever, funny, bullheaded, and kept in check by equally assertive mother, Donna. Family get-togethers, and Donna is Robert Blinky Griffin's mother. Family get-togethers burst with fiddles and guitars, singing, and plenty of embellished stories. Pam played the piano. In quieter moments, the family reminisced or complained about younger brother, who was in state prison for an armed robbery. His name was Robert. Pam had met Robert once when the family visited him at his high school graduation in prison at Tracy near Stockton. Donna always said he was the most sensitive and considerate of her 3 children. But outside the house, he was defiant and stirring a fury of trouble. He started smoking weed and popping barbiturates at 12. He first stuck his arm with a needle full of heroin at 14. Arrests added up, narcotics, burglary, assault, and then in the 11th grade, he punched a teacher and was sent to a boys' detention camp in Trabuco Canyon. When he got out and landed in more trouble, his probation officer gave him a choice between jail and the Marines. Robert made it through basic training, but was kicked out for twice going AWOL on drug jags. By the late 60s, he was robbing convenience stores to buy heroin. In 1969, he was caught for a $150 heist in Fullerton. He was convicted and entered the state prison system March 20th, 1970, on an indeterminate sentence of 6 months to life. He was only 21. Inside gangs such as the Black Guerrilla family and Mexican Mafia ruled the yards. White inmates were generally outnumbered. The tougher bikers and street hoods banded together to meet violence with violence. Robert was quickly identified as of a group who tried to set fire to fields at the state prison in Soledad so they could kill a black guard or inmate during the disturbance. So basically they set this fire as a distraction. They're going to go try to kill this guard or the inmate. The alleged plot failed, but he was transferred to a max security wing at the California Institution for Men in Chino. There at Palm Hall, he came upon the most virulent whites in the system. They called themselves the Aryan Brotherhood. There were only a couple of dozen members, but they reigned over the white population, with many associates to do their bidding. Any member who backed down or failed to carry out a hit could be marked for death. And they adopted a shamrock as their symbol, with a 6 on each leaf, forming the biblical mark of the beast. They would take the nickname The Brand after a gang of outlaws in Lewis cowboy books. They asked Robert if he wanted to join. They congratulated him for being chosen. Robert became a made member in 1972. It was the most violent year ever in the prison system, and the corrections department sent him to the crucible of the madness, San Quentin. 4 guards had been slain there the year before. Now they regularly opened fire from the catwalks. Everyone lined up by race. Any who intermingled risked an ugly death. Robert marveled at the old fortress, festering in the west wool fog off of San Francisco Bay. Concrete spalled off the crenelated walls. Robert unrolled the mattress in his cell, and mice scattered everywhere. For a criminal, this was the big time. Inmate trustees ran the joint, hawking food, smokes, drugs, knives, and for a price, they could hook you up with electricity, furniture, and hot water. Robert's cell soon had stereo speakers, a bucket seat from a sports car, and a bed that hinged against the wall for more living space. One day, Robert ran into a childhood friend named John Calfee. They quickly reestablished their friendship. Robert introduced him to the other guys in the Brand. "Dude is my brother on the streets, and he is my brother in here," he said. Calfee was accepted into the Brand. Robert would be responsible if his protege lived up to the code. In Southern California that year, Pam and Jerry got married and bought a home in Mentone in the boulder-strewn foothills of the San Bernardino Mountains. She was 23. She began taking classes at Cal State San Bernardino to finish her sociology degree. She took up the chore of writing Robert regular letters from the family. Her first letters were filled with idle chat and family news. Soon, she found herself drawn to Robert in the way she was drawn to the wannabe Black Panther in the dorms at Kansas State. She found in Robert someone craving to express himself. Pam would realize how much she needed to do the same. In college, she developed a paralyzing fear of speaking before groups. She wanted to chime in during class discussion, but as soon as she opened her mouth, adrenaline would overwhelm her. She was too embarrassed to talk about the phobia. Gradually, she confided in Robert. He pointed out how much courage she had just to take the classes, and he put her sense of shame into the broader perspective of human failure that he was locked up in. Their letters became a forum for each internal struggles. Robert had started trying to educate himself and loved to discuss the history and philosophy. At times, his letters had a wistful, Holden Caulfield tone, as if he knew he was narrating his own tragic comedy. Or they would read like the musings of a college freshman. Sometimes they had jive or rhythm, yet other times it was dreary, as he wrote in 1974 about the old derelict gallows. Finally, I want to wrap this article up with a poem that Robert had wrote Pam, and it says, "At times I felt I was part of its history, yet alien to its destroying effect on the human soul. I would watch the birds come in to make their nests on the gun rails or watch the rats running in packs at night. I would study anything to forget my own loneliness and despair." Okay, so the reason I really, really liked that article, not only did it talk about some of his early years, his family, how he ended up meeting and marrying Pam, which is crazy in its own right, but it talks about his personality, right? A lot of people know about some of the crimes and the murders and all that. We're going to talk about that right now, but that really shone his personality, how his mom was talking about how he was more sensitive, considerate of her 3 children. I just think that stuff's really interesting and stuff you guys need to hear. Okay, so jumping over, though, to what he was actually convicted of. He does get convicted of this RICO, right? Murders, attempted murders, all that. He ends up getting grouped in with another guy by the name of John Stinson. A federal grand jury indicted Griffin and Stinson for operating a RICO conspiracy in violation of U.S. Penal Code. Overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy, including operating the California Commission and 11 murders, attempted murders, or conspiracies to murders. The Vicar counts allege the murders of Arthur Arufo and Aaron Marsh for the purpose of maintaining or increasing Griffin and Stinson's positions in the AB. The case proceeded to a 27-day jury trial, and the jury found Stinson and Griffin guilty of the RICO count. And it just talks about how basically for years, Robert Blinky Griffin would fight. They housed him in the SHU for years, and then he would denounce his gang status numerous times. He even took out a newspaper editorial, basically took out an ad in the paper stating that I, Robert Lee Blinky Griffin, am no longer associated with any prison system or prison gang within the prison system. Still didn't work. He finally did get out of the SHU, the security housing unit. But when Pam talks about she rode this ride with him, she's not exaggerating. He'd been in prison since 1970. He was originally convicted of robbery and burglary, committed additional violent crimes while in prison, including the murder of another inmate. Became a leader in this national prison gang, the Aryan Brotherhood, and it basically talked about his many years of confinement to the shoe and to protect his other prisoners from him and as a gang underlings. At least that's what the government tried to say and what the state tried to say. So anyway, really want to know what you guys think about this. I feel like he's got layers and layers to him. There's some guys I cover where it's kind of cut and dry who they are. Not saying they don't have people that don't care about him or people that don't love him. But Robert Blinky Griffin has a hell of a story. Almost like something that could be made into a movie. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It said right here, did time at Tehachapi, in the shoe at Pelican Bay. He tried to denounce his status, but then they reconfirmed he was an Aryan Brotherhood member back in 95. And said in 99 and 2000, prison officials received several confidential memoranda suggesting that Griffin was still authorizing assaults on behalf of the Aryan Brotherhood. In 2000, they intercepted a kite, a letter smuggled past prison officials to another prisoner that said Griffin had authorized an assault on another prisoner on behalf of the AB. Yeah, man, just crazy. Go check it out for yourselves. Please let me know what you guys think about my video. And until next time, you already know what it is. Peace.